everyone, and welcome back to Tech Talk with Boyum. It's certainly great to be here again. This series has continued throughout the year with amazing guests and great discussions, but I've not hosted a lot of them for a little while anyway, so I'm really pleased to be back for this special episode. And really, it's only special for one main reason, and that is because it's the final podcast for 2025. Can you believe it? We're already talking about the end of another year. And yes, it's been a huge year. We've covered everything from digital transformation to manufacturing innovation to the power of well-managed product data. And through it all, our listeners have been with us. So before anything else, I want to say a heartfelt thank you to all of you. Your support, your messages, your engagement, and the way you share these episodes with your teams and networks truly means a lot. Today, we are closing the year with a topic, well, it sits at the center of everything we do at Boyum and everything modern organizations are striving for, and that's culture. But I mean real culture, not fluffy culture. And not that surface level statements or values on a wall and that mission statement, but the lived behaviors, the shared beliefs, and everyday experiences that shape our performances day in, day out. And I really couldn't think of anyone better to unpack this with me than our guest today. I'm joined by Nadja Boyum, and yes, for those within our ecosystem, Nadja needs no introduction. Yes, the Boyum and original co-founder, our very own Chief Human Resources Officer. Now, Nadja brings a wealth of experience in global people leadership, communication, and organisational development. And she has played a central role in shaping the way we think about culture across Boyum. With a background in international business communication and a career spent helping companies build engaged, high-performing teams, no one better than Nadja, as she shares and will share with us a unique perspective on what it takes to create a workplace where people feel connected, supported, and inspired. Nadja, welcome, and thank you for joining us.
Thank you a lot, Paula. I'm really glad to be here and talk about culture. And I love that we are ending the year by talking about culture, because for me, it's not just a soft topic at all. It's one of the most practical and most powerful tools we have as an organization.
Thank you. So let's get started. And great place to start is always at the beginning, right? So people use the words healthy culture and inclusive culture all the time. I mean, I hear it. But what do these ideas actually mean?
Well, for me, a healthy culture starts with psychological safety. If I walk into a meeting and people do not feel that they can say what they really think, if they can challenge an idea or admit a mistake, then it does not matter what is written in our values. The culture will not be healthy. A healthy culture is one where people feel safe to speak, safe to question things, safe to own mistakes, and safe to ask for help. That is clarity about what is expected, how decisions are made, and how success is measured. That clarity creates trust and it creates a sense of stability. An inclusive culture goes a step further. It is where people feel they truly belong. They can bring their background, they can bring their personality, their thinking style, and their ideas without worrying if they fit some unwritten norms. It is not just about how diverse we are on paper. It is about who feels heard, who feels valued, and who feels like they have a real role in shaping where we are going. The most important point for me is when culture is healthy and when the culture is inclusive, it frees up people's energy. Instead of spending energy trying to protect themselves, to avoid conflicts, or to decode unclear expectations, they can use that energy for creativity, for problem solving, and for collaboration. And that is when you see people at their best.
I think that many leaders underestimate how much of a person's potential gets locked away when they don't feel safe?
Yeah, absolutely. And I see it very clearly in my role as well. When the environment is tense or unclear, people they pull back. But when trust grows, the change is almost immediate. People contribute more openly. They take more ownerships. They ask better questions and they make better decisions.
Nice. I want to go a little deeper here because culture is often spoken, and you mentioned this earlier as well, as something that's we hear the word soft and atmospheric. But the truth is, when culture's working, you can really see the difference in a way that people perform, the way the business moves. What are the specific performance impacts? Because we're always looking of ways to measure. Um, so how do we measure the impact of a strong culture within an organization?
Well, for me, there are several layers, and I see them also very concretely here at Boyum. First is engagement. When people feel respected, when they feel listened to and understood, they do not just show up to do tasks. They show up with commitment. They care about their outcomes. And you can feel that difference in energy, in team meetings, in how people talk about customers and in projects, and in how they respond during busy or stressful periods. Second is alignment. In a healthy culture, information flows. People know what matters now, what they are trying to achieve, and how their work connects to it. That alignment reduces rework and miscommunication. You spend less time firefighting and more time moving forward together. Third is decision quality. When people feel safe enough to speak up, you get much richer input, faster risk identification, and stronger debate. Leaders they take better decisions because they are not operating in an echo chamber. Fourth is innovation. People experiment more openly. They test ideas earlier. They raise concerns before they become problems. Innovation thrives in cultures where mistakes are treated as learning opportunities rather than reputational threats. And finally, resilience. Strong culture bounce back faster from setbacks. They adapt more easily to change. They trust each other more. They trust the leadership more, and they recover faster.
Interesting. You know, when you really think about this and take a moment to reflect, there really are commercial impacts, and often the part that is very underestimated by organizations. Things that influence cost, speed, quality, you know, customer satisfaction and long-term growth. I mean, culture has an impact on all of these very important measurable KPIs within a company.
Exactly. And from my perspective, culture is not just a nice to have. It directly affects productivity. It affects retention. It affects profitability. And when the culture works, many other things become much easier. When it does not, you spend a lot of time and money fixing problems that are not really cultural at their core.
Very, very true. And of course, the opposite is also very, very true. What happens when culture breaks down?
Well, you start to see people withdrawing. They turn their cameras off more often. They stop volunteering ideas. They might stay quiet in meetings, even if they disagree. They are still present, but they are not really participating. You would also see hesitation. People become cautious. They avoid taking responsibility because they do not feel the environment is safe if something goes wrong. Decisions slow down. Communication becomes more guarded and silos go stronger. Innovation suffers too. When people are in survival mode, they are not experimenting or they are not thinking creatively. They are simply trying not to make a mistake. And over time, it shows up in very tangible ways. Higher turnover, inconsistent experiences for customers, missed opportunities, just some examples, and a general sense that something is off in the organization.
And a general decline, I would imagine, across the board. And often by the time the metrics reveal themselves, the damage is already well embedded.
Yeah, completely. Culture is like infrastructure. When it is working, you do not notice it every day. But when it But when cracks appear, it becomes much harder. It becomes more expensive to repair. And this is why I believe culture deserves proactive attention, not just reactive fixes when something goes wrong.
Mm, very interesting. So let's bring this all together for a moment. What can leaders do immediately to strengthen culture?
Good question. There are four things I encourage our leaders to focus on, and also and I try to live these myself. One, communicate clearly, communicate consistently. Uncertainty is one of the greatest stressors in the workplace. When leaders explain the why and they repeat key messages, people feel much more grounded, even if the news is challenging. And then that clarity builds trust. Two, lift up more voices. In practice, that means actively inviting people to speak, slowing down to let different thinking styles contribute, and really listening to what is being said. Three, recognize contribution. It does not require big gestures. A sincere thank you, a quick note, or calling out good work in a team meeting can change how people feel about their day. That recognition tells people what you do matters here. And four, model the culture you want. Leaders set the tone for everything. If you want transparency, you need to be transparent. If you want accountability, show accountability. And if you want empathy, demonstrate empathy. So, what I want to say is culture follows behavior.
So honestly, there's something to be said about lead by example. So
Mm,
you cannot
yeah,
build a culture if you don't personally embody it. That's
exactly.
quite
Yeah,
powerful.
exactly. When leaders show up consistently in the way they want the organization to be, culture becomes coherent rather than confusing.
So Nadi, you have a unique close view of how culture actually lives inside Boyum. You work with leaders at different levels in different countries, different backgrounds across the teams in all facets and places that we do business as an organization. So you see the different stages of growth. You see the real behaviors, the pressures that they meet on a daily basis, moments where culture is either strengthened or really put to the test. I mean, there's been a lot of personalities come through the door. Now, from that perspective, what do you think are the biggest challenges leaders face when they're trying to build a healthy and inclusive culture?
Well, there are a few that come up again and again, I would say. The first is time. Culture requires intention, requires repetition. And I know, we all know leaders are under pressure to deliver short-term results. Culture work can feel less urgent because it's not always visible in the weekly reports. But if we do not invest the time, if we will end up dealing with the same people and the same collaboration issues again and again. Second is clarity. Leaders often believe they have communicated clearly, but when you talk to employees, there are still question marks. People are unsure about priorities. They are unsure about what to expect. And for a healthy culture, people they need to understand what we value, what good behavior looks like, and how decisions are actually made. The third is courage. An inclusive culture means inviting real feedback, hearing also sometimes the uncomfortable truth, and being open to challenge. That requires emotional maturity. As leaders, we all have to be willing to look at our own impact and adjust if needed. The fourth, I would say, is consistency. Many organizations declare values, but the lived behavior does not match the message. If we say we value collaboration, but we then reward individual heroics, people will notice. If we talk about well-being, but we at the same time also celebrate constant overwork, people will notice. Culture breaks when there is a gap between what we say and what we actually do. Finally, I would say scalability. What works in a small team does not automatically scale across all countries, all functions, and all leadership layers. Companies that grow quickly sometimes lose that cultural coherence because they do not put the structure, the rituals, and the communication rhythms in place to support that growth.
They all sound very familiar, especially the point around the fourth one I think you mentioned, consistency. So it's easy for culture to drift if leaders are not intentional.
Exactly, because culture is built through small daily habits. When leaders understand that culture is a real management responsibility, it's not just a side project, then the organization becomes more aligned, more human, and much more effective.
I like that, more human. Now, everything you've shared here today connects so strongly with how we think about culture at Boyum. Certainly for me, writing about our values for socials and so forth. So for us, culture is not decorative or something that sits on the sideline. It's central to how we operate, make decisions, and work as a global team. So for our listeners here today, our foundation at Boyum is something that we call Energy for Life. And it's not a fancy slogan. And life is not about pushing harder either. It's about having the right kind of energy, the sustainable kind, the one that comes from that balance, clarity, connection, and purpose. Actually, life has a meaning behind each letter. So life stands for family, social, fit, and excellence. Now, family, the whole idea behind that is how we support each other and act as a community. So that's the thought process there behind the F. Social is about belonging and the small interactions that make people feel included. And fit, well, it's our commitment to mental and physical well-being as a requirement for long-term performance. And certainly, it's what, four years and a bit now here at Boyum, and I certainly see that competitiveness amongst our colleagues when we run all these internal competitions and try and outdo each other. And yes, there is pressure on me to become a cyclist, but I'm not quite sure if I'm going to walk that path. But anyway, and then there's excellence. And this is the balancing act. And that is about growing and giving our best through pride and purpose, not pressure. So I have seen that when these values come together, that teams, certainly within the marketing team that I work with, everyone feels more energized in a more comfortable, steady, sustainable way. And our coat of arms that you would have seen on our website and so forth, it's a reminder that no matter where we sit in the world, we share the same identity, expectations, and that overall sense of belonging. So that's just to share our listeners here today the values that we live by here at Boyum, all around the culture that we practice as well as preach. Now, we bring all of this also into our daily work. And we have this philosophy at Boyum that we reference the three eights. And the whole idea behind that is to remove what's got no value, automate what can be automated. And when neither is possible, we delegate with clarity. And that goes hand in hand. It creates calmer teams, cleaner workflows, more predictable outcomes. So it gives the people the space to do the excellence part of life without that undue pressure and friction. And certainly I'm proud to be part of that, and I see it in action, and it's just so amazing because I also get that feedback from our customers and partners. I always hear that comment, oh, Blam, you've got a great culture. So it's great that we're able to actually push out those perceptions into the wider market. And it tells us that our culture is not only defined, it's lived and felt every day.
Paula, hearing you describe is that is exactly why I'm so passionate about my role, because what you just outlined is not just a poster on the wall. Yes, we see it, we have it all in all our
Yeah.
offices, but it is what I see in our conversations with managers, in the feedback from our people and how we make decisions. So for me, Energy for Life and everything around it gives us a shared language. It helps us ask the right questions. Are we protecting our people's energy? Are we creating belonging? Are we enabling excellence in a sustainable way? And when we keep those questions close, culture becomes something we live and not just something we occasionally talk about.
Amazing, Nadia. Now, before we close our final episode of 2025, any last thoughts for leaders?
I could say this: culture is built one day at a time through small choices, consistent behavior. You do not have to redesign everything at once, but focus on trust, focus on clarity, and focus on creating a sense of belonging. If people they really feel valued, if they feel supported and informed, it is not something you have to push endlessly. It becomes a natural outcome of people doing work they care about in an environment that supports them.
Beautifully said, Nadia. Thank you so much. This has been a fitting way to close out our year for 2025. And to everyone listening, thank you. Thank you for being part of this journey once again, for your messages, your shares on socials, your support, and your enthusiasm for the conversations that we have had across the year, and certainly for listening to our final podcast for the year. We're grateful for each and every one of you. From all of us at Boyum, we wish you a wonderful festive season filled with that important rest, joy, and connection with the people who matter the most. Take care, stay safe, and we look forward to bringing you more conversations, more insights, and certainly more energy for life in 2026. Happy festive season, everyone. This is Paula on Tech Talk with Boyum, signing off for 2025. Talk to you in the new year.
Happy festive season, everyone, from my side as well.
Thank you again, Nadia.